Imagine this. If you had a rocket that could go faster and faster, what would actually stop you from reaching infinite speed? Is light just slow, or is the universe secretly putting up a hard wall you can't cross? Here's the strange part. Nothing is physically blocking you. No cosmic speed police. And yet, no matter what you do, light speed remains the ultimate limit. Why? Welcome to the channel, where we don't just accept physics rules, we ask why they exist. Today, we're going to unpack this idea step by step, using simple logic, everyday thinking, and a bit of playful curiosity to see why the universe works this way. Stick with me till the end, because the real reason light speed can't be beaten is far more surprising than it's just fast. And if you enjoy physics explained clearly, honestly, and with curiosity leading the way, go ahead and subscribe. Let's think this through together. Let's start with a very ordinary idea: speed. When we say something is fast, we usually mean it covers a lot of distance in a short amount of time. A car, a plane, a rocket, it all sounds like the same game. Just go faster by pushing harder. So naturally, you might think that the only reason we can't go faster than light is because we don't yet have a powerful enough engine. But that's not the real problem. The real problem isn't speed at all. It's time and space themselves. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine you're driving down a highway at 60 kilometers per hour and another car passes you at 80. From your point of view, that car is moving 20 kilometers per hour faster than you. Speeds add nicely. That's how life usually works. Now imagine the same idea, but replace cars with light. You shine a flashlight while standing still, and you measure the speed of light. Then you get on a fast spaceship, shine the same flashlight, and measure it again. Common sense says the light should move faster now because you're already moving. But when people actually measured this, carefully, repeatedly, in every clever way they could, they found something shocking. The speed of light comes out exactly the same every time. It doesn't matter how fast you're moving. It doesn't matter who measures it. Light refuses to add its speed the way everything else does. So what gives? Something has to change. And since light's speed won't budge, the universe adjusts something else instead. That something else is time and space. To see why, imagine two people with identical clocks. One stays on Earth, the other gets on a very fast spaceship and comes back later. When they compare clocks, they don't agree. The moving clock has ticked more slowly. Time itself has stretched, not because the clock is broken, but because motion affects time. The same thing happens with space. Lengths shrink along the direction of motion. Distances adjust. The universe quietly rearranges its measurements so that light can keep moving at the same speed for everyone. Here's the key idea. Speed is distance divided by time. If the speed of light must stay fixed, and distances and times are allowed to change, then the universe has plenty of room to make things work out. Light doesn't care how fast you're moving. Space and time will shift to protect its speed. This is why saying nothing can go faster than light is a little misleading. It's not like hitting a brick wall. As you try to go faster and faster, your time slows down compared to the rest of the universe, and space in your direction of motion shrinks. From your own point of view, everything feels normal. But from the outside, you're paying a very strange price. So the limit isn't about engines or materials. It's not a technological inconvenience. It's built into the way reality measures itself. Once you see that, the question changes. We're no longer asking, why can't we go faster? We're asking something much deeper. Why is the universe constructed so that time and space behave this way at all? And that's where things start to get really interesting, because the speed of light isn't just a number, it's a clue. A clue about how the universe is stitched together and why speed was never the main character in the story to begin with. Let's focus on a statement that sounds simple, almost innocent, but turns out to be one of the strangest facts ever discovered about nature. Everyone measures the same speed of light. Not almost the same, not on average, exactly the same. Now, at first, this sounds like a technical detail, something only physicists should worry about. But if you slow down and really think about it, this single idea quietly overturns how we understand motion itself. Start with an everyday experience. Imagine you're standing on the sidewalk and a bus drives past you at 40 kilometers per hour. A kid on the bus throws a ball forward at 10 kilometers per hour. From your point of view, the ball is moving at 50. From the kid's point of view, it's only moving at 10. Both descriptions are perfectly fine. Motion depends on who's watching. So naturally, you'd expect light to behave the same way. If a spaceship is racing through space and turns on a headlight, the light should go a little faster, right? That expectation is so reasonable that scientists spent decades trying to confirm it. They designed experiments of extraordinary precision, splitting beams of light, bouncing them off mirrors, rotating the equipment, repeating the tests at different times of year as Earth moved through space. And every time the answer came back the same. Light speed doesn't change, not because the experiment failed, not because the instruments were faulty, but because nature simply doesn't allow light to behave like an ordinary object. Now think about what that really means. Two observers, moving relative to each other, measure the same light beam and both get the same speed. If speed is distance divided by time, and the speed stays fixed, then distance and time can't both stay the same. Something has to give. Here's a helpful way to picture it. Imagine the universe is keeping a strict accounting system. The speed of light is written in permanent ink. It cannot be altered. So when two observers move differently, the universe adjusts their rulers and clocks instead. Each observer gets their own version of distance and time, perfectly consistent internally, but not identical to anyone else's. This isn't a trick or an illusion. It's not about faulty perception. It's about how measurement works at a deep level. For example, two events that happen at the same time for you may not happen at the same time for someone moving relative to you. This idea, called the relativity of simultaneity, is one of the hardest to accept because it clashes with our everyday sense that now is universal. But light doesn't respect a universal now. It forces each observer to carry their own clock, their own slice of time. What's remarkable is that all of this comes from insisting on one simple rule. The speed of light is the same for everyone. No extra assumptions, no complicated machinery, just that. And the universe bends itself to make it true. Once you accept this, a lot of strange things stop being strange. Time dilation isn't a weird side effect. It's necessary. Length contraction isn't optional. It's required. They're the bookkeeping tools the universe uses to keep light speed unchanged. So when we say light has the same speed for everyone, we're not just talking about light. We're talking about the fact that reality does not come with a single shared clock or ruler. Each observer carries their own, and that's the deeper lesson here. Light isn't special because it's fast. It's special because it reveals how the universe organizes space and time, and how our everyday assumptions quietly break when we look closely enough. Once you see that, motion is no longer just about who's moving. It's about how reality itself agrees to disagree, while still playing by one unbreakable rule. Up to now, everything we've talked about has quietly relied on a very old habit of thought, one we almost never question. If something is moving and you move toward it, their speeds add. Simple, sensible. It works beautifully for bicycles, trains, airplanes, and baseballs. For most of human history, it worked so well that nobody imagined it could ever fail. But near the speed of light, this innocent rule breaks down completely. Let's begin with something familiar. You're standing on the side of the road. A car drives past you at 60 kilometers per hour. On top of that car is someone jogging forward at 10 kilometers per hour. From your point of view, the jogger is moving at 70. No mystery. That's how velocities add, and you don't need a physics degree to believe it. Now let's push the idea. Imagine the car is moving not at 60, but at 90% of the speed of light, and the jogger on top of it starts running forward. Common sense insists the jogger must now exceed the speed of light. After all, we're just adding speeds, but the universe refuses to cooperate. When scientists examined how nature actually behaves, they found that no matter how you stack motions together, the result never crosses the speed of light. It can get closer and closer, but it never quite reaches it. The familiar rule for adding speeds simply stops working. This isn't because nature suddenly becomes stubborn. It's because our old rule assumes something that isn't true anymore, that time and space are the same for everyone. Remember, speed is distance over time. If time runs differently for moving observers and lengths change with motion, then adding speeds can't stay simple. The math has to change to reflect how the universe measures things. Here's a way to picture it without equations. Imagine speed as money, and the universe imposes a very strange tax. At low speeds, the tax is so tiny, you don't notice it. You add 10 to 60, and you get 70. fine. But as you get closer to the cosmic speed limit, the tax becomes enormous. Each extra push gives you less and less return. You spend more energy, but the speed increase shrinks. From your own point of view, everything feels normal. Your engines fire, your clocks tick, your ruler measures the same length as always. But from the outside, something odd is happening. Your time is slowing down compared to the rest of the universe, and distances along your direction of motion are shrinking. So when someone else measures how fast you're going, the numbers refuse to add up the old way. The result is a new rule for combining speeds, one that agrees with everyday addition at low speeds, but smoothly bends as you approach light speed. It's not arbitrary. It's the only rule that keeps the speed of light the same for everyone. And here's the important point. Nothing dramatic happens when the rule changes. There's no sudden warning sign that says, classical physics ends here. The breakdown is gentle, hidden, and almost invisible until you get extremely close to light speed. That's why our everyday intuition works so well, and why it quietly misleads us. This failure of simple addition isn't a flaw in physics. It's a clue. It tells us that motion is not layered on top of a fixed background of space and time. Motion reshapes the background itself. So when you ask, why can't we just add speeds and go faster than light? The answer is not because the universe says no. The answer is because the universe counts differently. And once you accept that, you begin to see that the speed of light isn't a barrier you crash into. It's a horizon your equations asymptotically approach, guided by the deep structure of space and time. So far, we've talked about clocks slowing down, rulers shrinking, and speeds refusing to add the way we expect. Now let's turn to something that feels more concrete: energy. After all, when you want something to go faster, you give it more energy. You press the gas pedal. You burn more fuel. Simple. So here's a very natural question. If you just keep adding energy, why doesn't the object eventually reach the speed of light? At first, everything behaves exactly as you expect. You give an object some energy, it speeds up. You give it more, it speeds up more. No surprises. This works for cars, planes, and even particle accelerators, at least at low speeds. But as you push closer and closer to light speed, something strange happens. The same amount of added energy produces less and less increase in speed. It's as if the universe becomes increasingly resistant, not by slamming on the brakes, but by quietly changing the rules of the game. Here's a helpful analogy. Imagine pushing a shopping cart on a smooth floor. At first, a small push makes it roll faster. Push harder, it speeds up more. Now imagine the floor gradually turns into thick mud. You can keep pushing harder and harder, but the cart barely speeds up at all. Your effort goes somewhere, but not into speed. Near light speed, energy starts behaving like that push in the mud. So where does the energy go? One way to think about it is that the object becomes harder to accelerate, not because it's gaining ordinary weight, but because its resistance to acceleration increases. In everyday language, we say its relativistic mass increases, though it's often clearer to say the energy content is rising dramatically. From the outside observer's point of view, the object's motion is eating up energy just to maintain the structure of space-time around it. Time is slowing down for the moving object. Lengths are contracting. All of that takes energy. There's a beautiful intuition here. As an object moves faster, more of the energy you give it goes into changing how it exists in time, not how fast it moves through space. That's why the speed increase tapers off. Mathematically, the closer you get to light speed, the more energy is required for the tiniest gain. To actually reach light speed, you'd need infinite energy. Not a very large amount, not an impractical amount, an infinite amount. And that's not a technological problem. It's a logical one. You could imagine perfect engines, perfect fuel, perfect materials. None of that helps. The universe simply does not allow a massive object to absorb infinite energy. The requirement itself makes the task impossible. This also explains something subtle but important. Light doesn't slow down because it doesn't have mass. It doesn't need to pay this energy cost. It's not being pushed toward light speed. It already lives there. Massive objects, on the other hand, are trapped on the slow side of the limit. They can chase light forever, getting closer and closer but never catching it. So when we say, you can't reach the speed of light because it would take infinite energy, that's not a slogan. It's a deep statement about how energy, motion, space, and time are woven together. The speed limit isn't enforced by a force or a barrier. It's enforced by bookkeeping. The universe keeps perfect accounts, and the energy bill simply diverges. And that leads to a remarkable conclusion. The The speed of light isn't just fast, it's the point where the very concept of accelerating a massive object stops making sense. Once you see that, the limit feels less like a restriction and more like a natural boundary built into the logic of reality itself. At this point, it's tempting to think of the speed of light as a kind of engineering problem. Maybe it's just the fastest thing around. Maybe it's the best nature could do. But that picture is completely backwards. The speed of light is not a technical limit. It's a rule of the universe, woven into how reality itself works. To see why, let's step back and ask a different question. What if the speed of light were just a little faster or slower? Would anything really change? Surprisingly, almost everything would. The speed of light isn't just about light. It's the conversion factor between space and time. It tells you how many units of space correspond to 1 unit of time. In everyday life, we convert kilometers to meters or hours to seconds. The universe converts time into space using the speed of light. That's why physicists often treat space and time as parts of a single thing, space-time. Light speed is what stitches them together. Here's an analogy. Imagine a map with a fixed scale. 1 inch equals 1 mile. That scale isn't about roads. It defines how the entire map works. Change the scale, and every distance, every direction, every measurement changes with it. The speed of light plays the same role for reality. Because of this, the speed of light shows up everywhere, even when light itself isn't involved. For example, it defines which events can affect which other events. If something happens too far away, and not enough time has passed for light to travel between them, then there is no possible cause and effect connection. No signal, no influence, no information, nothing. The universe simply says, these events are unrelated. This is what preserves causality. The idea that causes come before effects. Without a universal speed limit, cause and effect would become ambiguous. You could have situations where an effect happens before its cause, depending on who's watching. That's not just strange, it breaks logic. The speed of light prevents that from happening. So when we say nothing can travel faster than light, we're really saying nothing can outrun causality. Nothing can outrun the structure that keeps the universe logically consistent. And here's the remarkable part. Light doesn't set this limit because it's special. Light follows the rule because it has no mass. The rule exists first. Light simply reveals it. If you imagine a universe with a different maximum speed, you'd get a completely different space-time, different relationships between time and distance, different notions of simultaneity, possibly no stable atoms, possibly no chemistry, possibly no observers to ask the question in the first place. In that sense, the speed of light isn't an arbitrary number. It's part of what makes a universe like ours possible. This is why asking, why can't we break the light speed limit, is a bit like asking, why can't we draw a triangle with 4 corners? The question assumes the rules are optional. They're not. They define the game. The speed of light isn't a fence at the edge of physics. It's the framework holding physics together. Once you see it that way, the limit stops feeling frustrating. It starts feeling elegant. The universe isn't holding us back. It's showing us how deeply ordered it really is. And perhaps that's the most important lesson here. The speed of light isn't about light at all. It's about the hidden architecture of reality. Quiet, consistent, and astonishingly precise, revealing itself through one unbreakable rule. So if we step back and look at the whole picture, the speed of light stops being a frustrating barrier and starts becoming a guide. It isn't the universe saying, you can't go any faster because you're not clever enough. It's the universe quietly revealing how space and time are built. Light speed stays the same for everyone, not because light is special, but because space and time are not fixed. As motion changes, clocks slow down, lengths shrink, and even the way we add speeds has to be rewritten. When we push harder with energy, we don't break the limit. We discover that motion itself demands an infinite cost. And beneath all of this is a deeper rule. The speed of light is the structure that keeps cause and effect intact, and reality logically consistent. So the ultimate limit isn't about engines, materials, or technology. It's about how the universe measures itself. Light speed isn't a wall you crash into. It's the framework holding everything together. If this way of thinking shifted how you see motion, time, or reality itself, that's exactly the point. Physics isn't about memorizing limits. It's about understanding why the limits exist. If you enjoyed this kind of clear, curiosity-driven explanation, consider subscribing to the channel. We explore big ideas in physics step by step with honest questions, simple reasoning, and respect for your intelligence. Stay curious, keep asking why, and I'll see you in the next one.